If your child needs special help at school, you expect your district to provide it.
But Target 8 investigators are finding evidence that despite an increase in child autism cases, the number of kids getting special help is going down in almost every West Michigan district.
24-Hour News 8's Danny Carlson was tipped off to this by a family who couldn't get services for their child. So we crunched the numbers and asked school leaders what's going on.
In the digital world, Aiden O'Neill fits right in.
You get gas once you hit the gas things.
Maybe that's why he loves technology so much. A solitary world he can control.
He's in his own little world.
The boundaries of that world defined by a diagnosis, autism. But while Aiden is considered medically autistic, he has a diagnosis from a doctor, schools do not recognize him as what's called educationally autistic.
They want to mainstream them, not understanding that they're causing more problems because these kids can't handle it, and they're putting other kids at jeopardy too.
What is deeply concerning to me are those kids that have disabilities that may be labeled as bad kids.
Attorney Kristen Totten filed suit against a Calhoun County school district last year, a case similar to Aiden's.
You have a child with a disability, you're getting a diagnosis from a physician, and then you bring that to the school, and the school's like, yeah, but we don't see it here at the school.
Totten won the lawsuit for a boy who was denied special education services.
It's a disturbing trend, and I think that it needs to, local districts are strapped budgetarily.
The superintendent of Calhoun County's ISD refused to sit down with us, but did refer us to their attorney. Rob Dietzel says the ISD follows strict federal guidelines that they must provide a free, appropriate public education to everyone.
That standard is a fairly low standard. Those students are entitled to educational services from which they can benefit, but they're not entitled to every service or program that might help them. In other words, the threshold or the standard is pretty low, and when you have the budget cuts that school districts have faced, the standard is one thing, and then everything above that equates to dollars.
He says kids who need extra help get it, regardless of diagnosis. And he told us the district does get some money back from the feds for kids labeled as special ed. Less than 30% of the cost, but some.
It seems like it would have to be less expensive to have everyone in a general population with bigger classes and things like that.
You know, I sort of see your point.
Mm-hmm. We wanted to see what the district's own records might show. So we used the Freedom of Information Act to get documents from the ISD's special ed program. And what we found again and again when talking about ways to cut costs, one of the options, fewer kids in special ed. The district even hired a consultant to look at program cost, a consultant who also suggested fewer kids in special ed would save money. But Dietzel says that was only a suggestion.
I would reject the idea that eligibility determinations are made based on funding and based on trying to keep costs down. At least that's not my experience. So no, I don't see a trend here. I think that we have 3 families who are coming to the surface in Calhoun ISD, but this is an issue we're seeing throughout the state.
When I crunched the numbers, I found that in nearly every West Michigan county, the number of kids in special ed dropped from 5 years ago, down nearly 15% in Calhoun County.
I don't necessarily want to say that it's a problem. It's an issue.
One way educators explain the trend, more districts may be offering programs like response to intervention, which gives kids help early on so they then don't need special ed. That's great for some kids, Nicole says, but not Aiden.
We were at the point of giving up when that day I made that phone call.
She called an advocacy center in Lansing. They helped Aiden get a recognized diagnosis, not one for autism, but one that says he's otherwise health impaired. Now, Nicole says he's thriving in a special classroom.
I would say never, ever give up. No matter how hard it gets, don't give up because you're the only person they have.
Oh, you like the Transformers? Man, they're great. That was Danny Carlson reporting. We've got the numbers for every school in every county in West Michigan. If you want to see how your kid's schools compares, you can check that out at woodtv.com. And also, if you're a parent who needs help, you do have rights.
Coming up tomorrow morning on Daybreak, we will have a live interview on what your rights are.